Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of I Cast Fireball, an actual play 5e D&D adventure where we go through the campaign Tyranny of Dragons. I'm Thomas, your DM for this venture, and around the table we have...
Mickey, and I play Malamara.
Jacob, and I play Lance Thalen.
Ned, and I play Fleeple.
And Josh, who plays Ralph.
Yeah!
Played or plays? Should it be past tense?
Well, Ralph is dead to all of us, so...
Ralph is dead to all of us.
Rest in peace.
This is a special episode of I Cast Fireball. It's our word of recall with our special guest, Josh.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
We are going to be talking about the episodes that Josh guest starred, as well as moving all the way forward up into the Council of Waterdeep. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've asked all of you to submit your questions, and we will do our best to get through every single one of them. And we're just real excited, Josh, to have you back on for our 9th episode, I think it is.
Yeah. 7 episodes and Crunch Squad.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that we've had you for enough episodes that we forget how many it's been.
That's great. Yeah.
Yes, that is good. It's good time. It's always a good time when Josh is here,
I'll end up being that guy on your guys' recording that doesn't get recorded, but just sitting there watching you all play. That's the... Has that ever happened to you guys? Have you guys ever played like D&D in a room?
Yes.
And there was someone who was not part of the party that's just sitting there?
Not that circumstance, but my brother was going to join a session. This was years ago. It was his first time playing, and I'm like, it's going to be fun. 3 hours later, the DM still has not introduced my brother's character. My brother literally took his dog on a walk for 45 minutes, came back, and was still just like, right. So...
That's awful.
How Not to DM. Another good podcast.
Well, shout out to How Not to DM with Derek over there. But we're going to jump into some of these questions that we had submitted by you, the fans. And we're going to do the same thing we did last time. So, Ned, last time you had rolled a fate die, and we had 3 different categories. The first category that we had was, and that we have this time, is character-specific questions. Second category is campaign moment questions. And then the third is what we have dubbed, well, not we, rather the rest of the cast have dubbed, Lonely Thomas, of questions just for the DM that I will do my best to answer.
It sounds like the name of like a great drink at a dive bar. Just pour me a Lonely Thomas.
Give me a Lonely Thomas.
Yeah, so I'm going to roll my fate die here. If it's a minus, we get a character-specific question. If it's blank, we get a campaign moment question. And if it's a plus, we get a Lonely Thomas question. That is a minus. We're starting with a character question.
I will start it out with our amazing guest, Josh. Many of our questions actually center on Josh because of how intricate he was, obviously, in this arc, and how much we got to know this new character and just how fun and amazing it was. So I'll start out with a question for Josh where it says, this question was given to us by Mark Wells, and it says, for Josh, it was really fun watching your subterfuge. Any recommendations on playing a spy on a party?
The best way to play a spy on a party is to not be a spy and then become a spy. Like, you just play it like a regular party member. You're not trying to actually be a spy, but then you just flip that switch. You know what I mean? Kind of like a narcissist. Like, you just pretend for a long time that you're not the bad guy until you need to be the bad guy, and then you can use all of that great information that you've gained in a game of D&D as a character. That's
not IRL. But yeah, I will corroborate that. I've had a few different characters who've wanted to play evil characters who eventually were going to betray the party, and without fail, the ones who were most successful were the ones who didn't let the party know that they were evil until the decisive moment.
But I mean, Ralph wasn't an evil guy. Ralph wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah. He didn't leave the party with a water elemental and said, "You guys got this," and then shut the door behind himself. But absolutely, and it definitely helps. I think when you have ironed a few behind the scene details with your DM,
100%,
to where it informs you as the player to know this is my time. This is the moment to reveal. When things start hitting the fan. Obviously, with the guest appearance, it's a lot easier for that to come to fruition a lot sooner. For an ongoing campaign, you'd have to work with the GM to figure that out on your own.
Yeah, if you try to pull up a I'm a spy thing without talking to your DM, that's gonna be a problem.
You might get a lightning bolt right to the heart.
Well, since we're veering in this direction, we actually have another question that's pretty similar. This is kind of a probably Josh and Thomas question. That why was Ralph working for the enemy? What discussion made that happen? That comes from Emberglow Treasures.
Why was Josh, or rather Ralph, working for the enemy? All right.
I have to go look at our conversation.
We had a long conversation via Discord. We had a lot of conversations about hey, I kind of let Josh know.
We talk a lot, Thomas.
We do. We do.
I've got to go way back in our chat to it's hey, here we're talking about kids.
Do the control home.
Okay, all right.
Get all the way to the top. But yeah, I had let Josh know right up front. I was like, hey, we want you to be on the show. And then when he agreed, I tried to give him a lot of options, while at the same time saying, this is the arc that I think would be most satisfying to occur. So this is what the party is going to be encountering. This is what I'm hoping they accomplish. And it really was just it was really open-ended. It wasn't they are gonna get Vandal. They're not gonna have. By the way, if you haven't figured out, spoilers for all of iCast Fireball up to this point. So you should know that going into a Word of Recall. But yeah, I don't think it was I'm gonna have Vandal come out. This is gonna be Jacob's whole or Lance's whole arc at this moment. It was just kind of this is what I think is going to happen. I think I presented a possible heist situation to you, actually. I was yeah, it's going to be a casino and things like that.
I found the conversation. Yeah, you first pitched it to me and said so we're playing in Faerun, and if there's you said if there's a guild that tickles your fancy within the world of Faerun, you mentioned someone recently became a harper. And so I have always been fascinated by the Zhentarim just because they're so shady and whatnot. So I pitched being an elven bladesinger of the Zhentarim, and with no context of any of your guys' background. And so Thomas then very deftly wove that in to being a much more narrative connect, which was not my initial intent, but it was cool.
The funny thing about that is I said to myself, I was like, all right, this will be good because it will introduce the other guilds in preparation for the Council of Waterdeep, and as the whole land is coming together. And if you listen to some of Council of Waterdeep, they've talked about how there are different guilds there that are represented. And I was like, perfect. Since as long as Josh does not choose the Zhentarim, this will be a perfect tie-in leading into the Council of Waterdeep. And then the first thing he said was I want to be in the Zhentarim. I was like, all right, cool. There were five choices, and he chose the one. All right, we'll work this out.
Yeah, the odds of probability don't actually work in D&D. It's all just what the story wants to happen.
Exactly. And so whenever I'm stumped, I do what I always do, and I go to my wife, and I go, hey, I'm having this question about what I should do in the podcast. What do you think I should do? And she comes up with a perfect solution. So then she's like, well, and then we talked about Lance and his backstory with Zhentarim, and it really worked out to weave it all into there and to have it become what it has become already.
Man, when he saw the tattoo, God, that was cool. That was such an intense moment.
Yeah. And it was fun. And I fed a lot of the background information, obviously not related directly to the adventure of Tyranny of Dragons, of just who Vandal was, what your relationship with him is. And basically all I said was Vandal wants Lance, and he knows he's in Neverwinter. You need to go check in on him, basically. And then I let him know a little bit about and if Rezmir's there, handle it. And that was kind of it. And so from there, Josh made a lot of the decisions as Ralph from that point.
I definitely, the initial intent for me, wanting to do the Zhentarim route, was not to be an enemy, like was not to like play an enemy character. It was definitely, I wanted to be like a, if you've ever watched like anime, like the information broker character that is like, that like always knows a little bit more than they let on, and you can never tell if they're there to help the main character or if they're actually like a big bad guy in behind the scenes. I wanted to kind of fit into that archetype, not with any narrative purpose, just because I really love those characters. I love how you never know what, kind of Jarlaxle-esque, if anybody is big into the Faerun world, or Talon Card from Star Wars Legacy books.
Yeah, those are some good pulls.
So but the fact that it ended up being like, oh, I'm actually working for someone who's very bad, like it added a great wrinkle to
this actually adds a lot to, we're just running through these Josh questions, but there's one more that I think applies to kind of the theme, and then we can jump to another one. And it kind of connects to what you're saying, because you didn't want to be a bad guy, but at the same time, you had kind of a mission plan out. And our question is from Matt G, where it said, did Josh have any sort of plan as to what he wanted Ralph to accomplish? We've kind of talked about what Vandal was telling Ralph to do, but this is more getting into the psyche of Ralph, the character. What was Ralph's really main objective? Did he want to escape with the mask? Was he just looking for any opportunity that he saw? And kind of what was your motivation or your goals or what were Ralph's goals for you, Josh?
I think Ralph's goals are like a rotating door. Like, I think it's like, in this moment, what thing will serve me best in terms of like giving me either the most protection, the most security, like whether it's pleasing my betters or acquiring some sort of wealth or, ability. So I don't know that he has I don't think that Ralph has like a 5-year plan. Like, I don't think he has goals that are very big for himself. I definitely think it's very much like day to day, moment to moment. And so he had a mission from Vandal to figure out what's going on with Lance, why we're hearing Scuttle that he's around and he's supposed to be dead. And I think the other side of that is I was also looking for the Dragon Mask and to out Rezmir, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's ironic that you say that Ralph doesn't have a 5-year plan, considering he's an elf and they live for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like he's a very wounded dog. Like, he's like he's jovial and jokey about it all, but I think very unhappy character in not satisfied with life much at all. To just take us down a notch, because I feel like we're having too much fun.
Well, yes, on that lovely note, shall I roll the die again?
Yes, let's go and roll the die.
All right. That is a plus, so this is a Thomas question. I guess I'll select one from that. This question comes from Michael Sear. How big of a deal was it when the Jank squad killed both Mondath and Rezmir?
First off, Michael, love you. Good hearing from you. And yeah, man, it was a big deal.
That was amazing.
Pretty big freaking deal at that point. I was like, it seemed pretty clear to me. That whole battle, man, it was just like, I just had put Rezmir and the Red Wizard in there to sort of like tease at, hey, this is what's coming up. And then they took the mask, and I was like, well, there's no way in heck that they're leaving without that mask. And so, like, they've got to get it. And they tried to, but everybody just kept, like, pushing them, pulverizing them, so to speak. And they were losing hit points pretty quick, thanks to Mal, especially that wizard. So then I was like, I think Rezmir is going to be gone. And I was like, well, shoot, that's gonna be rough. But Mondath, he can get away. And then Fleeple, at the last second, was like, yeah, no, he's gone. He's dead. And
oh my wow, moves.
Exactly. I had his perfect anime moment. Mickey even added the perfect anime shing, that noise when the wings extended. It was beautiful.
Thomas, I'm curious, did you plan that encounter as like a 4v2 encounter, or did you know that I wasn't going to help them fight those guys at all?
At that point, we had been recording a few episodes, and I was like, I honestly don't know how Josh is going to play Ralph in this encounter, so I'm just going to present it as an option. And I tried to I tried to keep my hands off of it, so to speak, of like, I didn't want to influence the outcome, which is apparent now that you guys destroyed these people. But I didn't want to be like, they have to get away, they have to leave, they have to survive due to plot armor or whatever. I wanted to just be like, all right, we're going to play it how it is. And if Josh helps out, that'll be helpful. But if not, then, so be it. And I just did not expect the battle to go that way with Mondath and Rezmir. And
how could you have expected like a horse, an antlered demon person,
impersonation of like
Oh my gosh.
another dragon?
Yeah, the impersonation of
Lance was
everybody.
impersonating Mondath. We were fighting Wrath Modar and
Rath
Rezmir.
Modar. I get his name wrong all the time. Yes. Yeah, I did not expect that impersonation at all, and I was like, oh my gosh.
As a French woman.
That was some of the most chaotic combat I've ever participated in.
Well, and I had
Yes.
I had flashbacks of back in college when a bunch of us were on improv together. I literally was given a scene where I was made a French character and I could not get the accent. I kept doing German. And so right when they're like, you're going to be Mondath. And I went, okay, Mondath's French. And I just like got sucked back to like college years where I was like, oh no, I'm terrible at this. So I was literally sweating doing a French accent because I'm like, I'm going to go German anytime. I'm going to go German. So I'm just like thinking, Candlestick, Beauty and the Beast, Paris, Eiffel Tower, just keep going. Like, it was so nerve-wracking to do that accent.
But yeah, it was kind of a big deal that Wrath Modar and Rezmir were killed, which I make note of in a future episode that's been released as well. So it will have lasting consequences for both the Cult of the Dragon and for the Jank Squad. So we'll have to see what those are.
Yeah, I think just to dovetail into another one, I feel like this is the perfect time to ask another question from Matt G, who asked Thomas, on a scale of 1 to 20, how much chaos did you expect Josh to bring? And after it was said and done, how would you rate that chaos?
I expected Josh to bring about, if we're going 1 to 20, I expected him to bring about probably 12, maybe 11 chaos. I was like, okay, I've listened to him. I followed his podcasts. I've seen him as a player and as a DM. And one of the big reasons why I wanted him on is because I know he cares about story. He cares about like character interaction. And then afterwards, I think it settled on maybe 17, 18 of like levels of chaos regarding Ralph. But it was the kind of chaos where I was like, of course Ralph would do that. And of course there's a Zentarum person who is actively trying to pursue rank is going to do that. And so it was just glorious. But most of the chaos, I feel, came from in that room when he tried to rub Rezmir's feet and then was like, oh yes, Mondath, we all knew that you were alive, and then getting the treasure chest, and so all of that, like that's where most of the chaos came from, I feel like, which just dovetailed right into the battle.
I should say the first session we played, meeting your guys' characters, traveling to the city, there was a conversation that Thomas and I had in DMs between that session and then the session that evolved into the combat, where I legitimately asked him, I said, I want to try and be as reserved as possible because I don't want to like overdo it as a personality, like joining your guys' crew. I want to contribute. I don't want to like be too crazy. And Thomas legitimately said, like, go crazy, like please, please don't hold back, like unleash yourself. And then I'm rubbing Rezmir's feet, and I think Thomas questioned his decision to unleash the.
Oh no, it was fun. It was fantastic. And boy, what fun it was to see how it all shook out. Really.
Now Thomas is in a support group with Reed, the Dungeon Master Sneak Attack.
I've been trying to reach out to him for a support group. So if you could pass that support group request along, that would be most appreciated.
You got it. I don't know that he'll respond to my texts anymore, so we'll see.
He's in rehab. Josh rehab.
We're still very good friends.
All right, let's go to the next question there, Ned.
All right, that's a blank, so we got a campaign moment question.
We've been talking a lot about the campaign real fast. If we could just kind of segue out of it, and we'll segue right back into it. This is a question that we were asked specifically, and I've also seen come up in other D&D groups and conversations that I've had about doing podcasts. And Mark Wells asked, what type of microphone do you recommend for somebody trying to do podcasts?
Well, we have a lot of different types of microphones in this group. I think the only ones of us currently here who know specifically the model of microphone we're using are myself and Josh. And all of the rest of them are just kind of like whatever microphone happened to be available on Amazon, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, mine I do not want to name because mine I've had problems with, and Mickey can attest to this. So I will not name names for my microphone.
So what I'm hearing is it's the content you produce, not the microphone in which you produce it on.
And the room within which you're recording. That is a
I will say, thing.
Like a quiet space that is locked off, that doesn't have like a lot of like audio reflective surfaces, like a wood floor or a tile room. Like if you're in a nice, like a closet is great. Like a small space. Even sometimes if you want to be really good audio, just taking whatever mic you have and throwing a rug over yourself, like to really stamp out any echoey sounds. But I think if you have any lick of like AV knowledge, the Rode Pod mic is excellent. Like it's an XLR mic. It's super cheap compared to most mics, and it records like excellently. On Sneak Attack, we updated our whole setup. We had like $300-400 mics for each of us that we had like slowly acquired for the podcast. We ended up selling all of those and swapping them for these, like, I think they're under $100, the Rode like pod mics. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. They're really simple XLR microphones, but they're excellent. But that's like, you got to know how to like hook it up to a console, get it recorded to the computer through that. So there's a little bit of, I think, audiovisual knowledge that's needed.
Which YouTube could probably help bridge the gap. Like,
but if you're doing like a recording like you guys do, where you're all in different locations, USB mics are excellent. Like there's not really a giant gap between like the most expensive USB mic and a cheap one. Like your quality is not going to be so drastic.
Yeah. What I will say is we've already talked about like the importance of the space is huge. Also, mic technique is a pretty big thing. Generally, like if you can keep yourself close to the mic within a good range, you'll be able to make sure that the mic is picking up the sound of your voice rather than the sound of the room around you. So like if I just move back a little bit from my microphone, you can probably hear right now, yeah, my voice doesn't sound as good because the mic is picking up a lot more room noise in relation to my voice. But if you find that you don't have a very good space, that you just don't have like an enclosed area that has good sound baffling, if you have to be recording in a big, loud, boomy room, I really like dynamic microphones. You'll see a couple of major categories. You've got condenser mics and then dynamic mics. And a lot of older guides will point you towards condenser mics because back in the day, most USB mics were condenser mics.
That's the Yeti Pro. That would be a good example.
They do a pretty good job. I had a Yeti X that I was using for a while, but then I upgraded to a dynamic mic. I have the Shure MV7. And what's great about dynamic mics is they are really good at isolating what's right in front of the mic and separating it from the noise in the background. And so if you do have that good mic technique, you stay close to the microphone, it's going to do a good job of picking up your voice and not a whole ton of other stuff. And the best part is there are more and more dynamic USB mics that are being released every day. So it's a good time to look into getting a dynamic mic.
I agree. The mic, I just spent 5 minutes trying to look for my old stuff or to talk about what mic I got. But I got it honestly back in 2016, 2017, so it's probably completely outdated now anyway, but it's a USB mic. I know I got it for $50, and it was advertised as a podcaster mic, but nothing special. I really think it's just practice, and as Mickey has given us notes about certain episodes being like, hey, your computer was on, or hey, your AC was on, or hey, and us trying to figure out if you could see the evolution of how we've been recording. Ned had a tent over him at one point. That these
movers blankets, wasn't
blankets. Movers blankets, yeah.
Moving blankets on a PVC frame.
Probably sounded nice and full, though. That was probably some great audio.
Oh, yeah.
And Jacob, in his closet, just surrounded by...
I literally have a tent with little hooks on my coat racks, just hooked on to keep the moving blanket over me and surrounding me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, I think there's a lot more that you can do to ensure a good sound being recorded right up front, other than buying an expensive mic. And some of them are very simple. And you probably go back to our beginning episodes. You'll notice that we did not have great mic technique. We did not always speak directly into the mic. We were always, and I still don't when I'm looking in books at times, and I have to remind myself. There were a couple episodes where I would take on the role of reminding people and being like, hey, and you say that again, but into the mic this time around. And so it's just getting into practice like anything.
Another element, I think, of podcasting was Ned read a book about it and gave us good apps to use now. So now we run our audio through a levelator, and then we use Audacity to record, or GarageBand, and editing it together. The quality of the programs that you're using also affect it. Because our raw audio, even with good mics and good areas and things, still need to be run through levelator and tweaked to really get good quality.
Post-production is pretty key to quality audio. You do need to...
Yeah, so reach out to Mickey on her technique that she does, because she does quite a bit.
It's rare that you're going to go straight from recorded audio to publication. That's a good way to sound like an amateur production, which a lot of us did. Not knocking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even if you don't need to cut anything, and even if you want to keep every single word, there's still post-production you have to do, regardless of I'm not going to take out anything. Fine, you still have to work with it to make it sound better.
And as a stark example of that, when we picked this name, actually found that there was another recording thing out there that was called Around Fireball, and we listened to it, and it was literally that. It was no post-production. Literally, hey, let's put a microphone in the middle of the table and just record ourselves playing some D&D for 2 hours. And it was like, I don't think we have much competition here. I think we'll be okay. I think people will
it was just the quality of the audio specifically. They're getting the table feel, which is exactly what every actual play wants to get. But the quality, there is that stark difference. And just spending a little bit extra time, either while you're recording or in post-production, can really enhance it.
Yeah, for sure.
So to jump back into the story world of our podcast, can I also ask, Katie Florman had a great question of what was the biggest surprise that actually surprised you?
A fun little moment for me. So there's that great bit where, Fleeple is out in the middle of the air. He's a horse. He's going to be falling down to the water, going to break his bones on the water beneath. And Thomas starts narrating, and you begin to fall. And it was in that exact moment that I remembered that I had wings.
Right.
So I was fully preparing up to that moment to be like, I guess I'm going to fall into this water and take a bunch of damage. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm going to sound really confident and like I knew what I was doing the whole time.
Like, wait a minute, Bahamut blessed.
Yes.
Yeah, that surprised me as well, because I also forgot that you had wings and was fully expecting you to just pull them out. I was like, okay, Ned, I guess you're falling. And you're like, falsehood. I'm like, oh, what a plot twist, which we should have seen if we had. Yeah, that was a funny moment. That was like actually a surprise, which absolutely should not have been a surprise.
Yeah. But I guess probably bigger than that were the fact that we ended up being as effective in combat in a lot of situations as we did. Like getting that killing blow on Rathmodar and then later getting the killing blow on Wanilium at the Bloody Bowl. I was absolutely not expecting that to happen.
Yeah, quite a bit. Quite a bit. And I've said this multiple times in recording, but I create encounters and base them off of like the book and from the campaign, and I'm like, all right, this should be, for all intents and purposes, referring to the Dungeon Master's Guide, referring to Xanathar's Guide, referring to all of the stuff that I can see. This should be a quote-unquote deadly encounter. And then they just destroy Rath Modar, or they destroy Rezmir, and I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? And the only time that I feel like I actually brought you near death's door was 1, Mondath, where Lance actually went down, and 2, in the tower with the skitterwigs.
Oh my gosh. Well,
That was, yeah.
That was surprising to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this wasn't supposed to be deadly. This was supposed to be only a difficult
fun side
one.
quest.
And it was a fun side quest. And just like to see it like messing and like being so difficult for the party, I was like, wow, okay. I think I attribute that to the mechanic of stun, but that's just me.
the most surprising moment that actually surprised me was we actually caught Ralph. Because Josh was pulling out so many little things. I'm like, there's no way we're going to catch him. We're going to lose the mask. We're going to friggin', you know, Josh just comes in, does what he wants, says, I'm out of here.
There was a moment I thought I would make it.
Yeah, there were many moments where I'm like, yep, Josh is gone. Josh is out. He's out. He did it. He accomplished, like, Ralph got his goal. And the most surprising moment was when we're on the beach and we're like, we tied him up and like I stab him and I literally was like,
That was surprising. That was
like,
surprising.
okay, where's the the rug? Like pull the rug. Oh, look, it's not Ralph. It's actually, you know, somebody else. Like it was disguised self.
It's plot armor.
Yeah, I was just ready for like something to happen where I was like, nope, we didn't get Ralph. We lost that. But yeah, it was surprising that we actually were able to somehow, through 3 minds, finally be able to corner one mind of Josh.
I'm curious, Thomas, did you have to fudge the whole like pocket dimension within a pocket dimension thing? Like, was this the case that the dragon mask was in? Because I remember when I said I shove it in my bag of holding, there was this like brief moment where Ned was like, "Oh, hold on, everyone, as the crunch expert, this could be a problem."
Yeah, no, that was a good point. Thankfully, the the treasure chest itself was not like a bag of holding.
Okay.
It was that, and that was like what I was checking. I was checking in the adventure itself, being like, all right, how do they describe this treasure chest? And I was like, okay, I know it has magical properties to it, or rather there's magic inside, but it wasn't like a folding space relic. And for those of you that might be confused about what we're talking about, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, when it talks about magic items, when it talks about a bag of holding, which is fairly common in D&D now, and I believe, what's the other one? Is it a vanishing portal or a vanishing...
You've got the portable hole, you've got the Heward's handy haversack, those extra dimensional things.
And so when you because those are interdimensional objects, and because those things aren't actually in the bag of holding, they actually go to the astral plane, and items can be stolen inside the astral plane from somebody's bag of holding and portable holes and things like that. Yeah, as long you'd have to find them in the astral plane, but yeah. Anyway, but if you put one thing inside of another thing, it rips a hole in the fabric of space, and everything around it in like a certain radius gets sucked into it and thrust into the astral plane, which is why I was looking and verifying, because I was like, oh crap, okay, let's make sure that this treasure chest is just a treasure chest and not like a unique bag of holding that is been described and looks like a treasure chest, because if so, everybody's getting thrown to the astral plane, which, if you know anything about certain creatures that have popped up in the campaign and their relationship to the astral plane, could have been a very interesting side quest and stuff. So
Chaos level 21.
So yeah, that was like, that was me going like, ooh, I might regret what I just decided to do. Can I just say real quick, I was surprised by Horse. That was a very surprising moment.
Yep.
Yes.
Horse.
I was surprised that Horse didn't make it through the window based on the rolls. I would have expected this beautiful cinematic moment of like, psh,
Like
shattering
Man
the
from
window.
Snowy River, his horse going off the
Man from
cliff.
Snowy River. and then roll, Ned.
You'd think something like that would have
Nothing.
worked out.
The moment on the couch where Ralph is surrounded by 3 beings that he does not recognize, but are in fact the 3 people he's been traveling with for the last like half a day, and is like, what is going on? Like that was Ralph, but also a little Josh. Like,
Let's start lightning rounding some of these. Let's roll it. That's another campaign moment question.
Was it intimidating to play with Josh? Katie asks.
Yes.
This is interesting because, like, you want when there's somebody who's really cool that you've looked up to, like Josh and Sneak Attack are essentially the reason why I learned how to play D&D 5e, and so like when he showed up, I was wearing my Sneak Attack T-shirt that I'd gotten back in the day, and I was like, I want to show this guy that I appreciate his work, but also I kind of want to be seen as a contemporary instead of as a fanboy, so a little bit intimidating.
Absolutely. When I was meeting with Josh for the first time, my wife was like, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, visibly shaken, being like, "No, why do you ask me?" And just that conversation. I mean, Josh, tribute to him. He's just such a fun guy. I mean, we just chatted for like 2 hours about life and just like just about anything really. That was kind of a fun conversation.
that was great. Yeah, that was really fun. I forgot about that.
And then we finally started talking about like, all right, this is what I think would be nice in the campaign.
Oh man, guys, that means a lot. I'm really glad. I don't think I'm an intimidating person.
Turns out you're not, which is nice.
But I will say, if there's anybody who has any level of a podcast like bigger than Sneak Attack or same size as Sneak Attack, and they're talking about themselves like there's something special or they've figured out some kind of trick to how to be, it's total bull. Nobody. We're all just people doing stuff, and some of us got an audience, and it's like there's no magic to the person. It's you guys have an awesome podcast. I think this podcast deserves to be heard by a lot of people. So it's
Oh, thanks.
I'm by no means on any different level, and I don't think anybody is.
Thank you.
So that's my 2 cents on celebrity or fame, but in general.
Well, thank you. On that touching note, we got to go fast. Next question.
You shouldn't have invited me to this, guys. I'm sorry.
Now, I'm going to be over here I'm going to be Sonic for a moment. That is a plus. Thomas question. Let's see. Okay, this is a very interesting one. This comes from Anthony W. How difficult is it adding multiple sources to a pre-written campaign and keep it making sense and having a good flow and pace? And alternatively, what might make that process easier than just, say, making a homebrew where you aren't constrained by a module story?
Man, that is a really good question, Anthony. I mean, shout out to you for thinking about that, because that is something that's been on my mind, and I would talk to my good D&D friend Ned about quite frequently, but he's a player in this campaign, so I can't talk to him about a lot of that stuff anymore, or else spoilers. But I could talk about this honestly probably for a whole episode. Just the things that I've learned and discovered over the years now, and who knows, maybe we will have it be a focus in maybe a DM segment episode or some sort of like bonus episode that we do, some little word of recall. But to keep it somewhat short, adding multiple sources, it is difficult. It is difficult, but one of the big reasons why we did add multiple sources to our podcast here is, one, it helps give us a lot of flavor. There were a couple things in Tyranny of Dragons that I wasn't passionate about, I wasn't crazy about, and I'm like, you know what, this section here, I don't love. I'm not sure how I can make it exciting and fun, but this other thing from this other book could be really fun. Can I make this work? Lottie's Place was a direct copy and paste from the Acquisitions Incorporated adventure. Candlekeep Mysteries was a heavy influence, and the side quest that we did there with Heather and Caleb, that was the literal adventure that we used there for all of that. And it just comes back to as a DM, if you're not passionate about a certain section, just find a way to either be passionate about it by maybe discussing with a significant other, like I do my spouse, for pretty much every aspect of this campaign, or to somebody else, and see if you could find passion by looking at it from a different angle. And if you can't, then just find a way to incorporate a meaningfully sidestep to reignite that passion. going to the custodians was an effort and success in reigniting my passion for just fun, quirky stuff that happens in D&D, which is why it was a fun little side quest for me, because it reinvigorated me for a lot of the heavy Council of Waterdeep stuff and negotiations that were about to come forth. So, yeah, just do what you're passionate about as a DM, and you will be able to find a way to make it work. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah, I actually would love to do an entire episode about hacking pre-written campaigns. I think that has a lot of potential as like a Crunch Squad or something.
Because there's so much good work that's been done, not only from Wizards of the Coast, not only third-party people who have created their own adventures, and you're like, oh, well, I'd have to run that whole adventure. I'd have to run a whole Curse of Strahd campaign to do this one aspect that I'm really passionate about. No, you don't have to do that. You can cut and choose. You can take from other, dare I say, tabletop systems. Pathfinder, Paizo does an amazing job with all of their modules. Why not use some of that in your D&D, or why not use some D&D in your Pathfinder as well? So yeah, I think that'd be a really good episode to talk about.
Yeah, but before we fully move on, just to answer kind of that second question of what might make this easier than making a full homebrew, yes, you have a lot of creative freedom with homebrew, but especially for like a new DM, it's really helpful to get a sense of how a campaign is structured. If you run through Curse of Strahd or Storm King's Thunder or whatever, you get a sense of how the game expects you to play, how DCs work, how encounter balance works. You learn to speak the language of the campaign, and then that makes it easier to be able to write your own campaign afterwards.
It's still a game, and you're using a system, a tabletop system, and so learning how to play inside that system, however loosely or strictly you would like to do, is very beneficial before you go off and you craft your own homebrew world. I'm also a perfectionist, so I feel like I would have to come up with every little detail of my homebrew world before I could even step foot in it in a game sense, which would just be more of a hindrance creatively, as opposed to getting a pre-written module where I feel like I have a lot more creative license as well.
Nice. Next question. Gotta go fast. Okay, campaign moment.
At any point, did any of the party just want to kill Ralph, but held back? Because
Yes.
it would have been less fun since it was
Yes.
another player and not just an NPC from Matt Z.
Yes.
Jacob,
Yes.
1,000 times yes.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I would have straight up murdered that man.
I felt that. That murderous intent was very visceral on the call.
But going back to the foundation of what we wanted to, especially as players, you, with improv, with a lot of our improv backgrounds, you yes and. So I'm like, I am respecting Josh's choices. I am finding, and I think it bred so much more entertainment than just like, oh, I don't like this guy, stab him. You know, that's one that even if it wasn't Josh playing, if it was an NPC, it still would be boring just to do that, because it's just like, oh, okay, well, you know, we lost any kind of story arc or any kind of intrigue there. You killed him and moved on. You became a murder hobo. So yes, obviously, like if I was playing a video game, I'd be like, kill this fool. Moving on. But because I didn't, and because we really wanted to stick to those principles, I mean, it would have been a terrible choice to do that, because one, Josh is a guest. You don't kill your guests. And two, it also, again, it lacks creativity to take that route. And so it was much more entertaining to find ways to get these people to work together, even while they're trying to steal things from each other, and create what was created, this almost tentative truce between the party and Ralph. So it was fun. I like the result.
I think that's one of the interesting differences between playing for a podcast and creating content versus just playing at a table. Because you're right, like if it's an NPC, you're just playing at a table with your friends, you would definitely have killed them. Even maybe like a player, like if you were just doing like a one shot, you probably would have just killed them off. But I think in the back of all of our brains, especially because we're all storytellers and we're creating content, there is a little voice that's like, what's the best choice, or what's the most interesting choice, what's the best story motivated choice that's going to create good content or set up good moments for the story.
Yeah, I've talked to the players here quite frequently over the years, and just with the intent of like, let's not take the easy route as our players, as our characters. Let's find ways that are gratifying and rewarding. And oftentimes, if you don't do the first thing that your character may want to do, if like in this instance, Lance wants to kill Ralph because of his relationship to Vandal, look at what happened as a result of that. And the journey that Jacob had to take as the player was so much more satisfying for me as the DM, at least, and I hope for the audience as well, to see that journey. And I think that's a big reason why we at this table keep coming back to the game, is because we keep finding those moments by not taking our first choice necessarily.
Yeah, I'm going to loop in another question that we've kind of already been answering. This is another one from Michael Sear. He says, Josh played out an incredible party betrayal. What do you guys think needs to happen so that PvP stuff can be fun and interesting rather than becoming something that upsets players at the table?
Ooh,
That is,
yeah.
well segued, Ned.
Oh,
Ned.
Yes.
Thank you.
And good and very apt question, Michael. PvP, I have very rarely come across PvP that was enjoyable for everybody at the table. Very rarely, especially extended PvP. A lot of times it's more frustrating. Somebody's getting frustrated because one of their goals is essentially it's saying like no to them when it comes to improv. They're saying, I don't like your choice, therefore I'm going to stop you with an attack and try to kill you or tackle you or put you to sleep.
You end up hashing out like a real world frustration through your characters, which is not a healthy game play.
The conflict should always be between characters, and it should never be between players.
I was going to say, one of the things that sticks out to me is like in D&D, you really when PvP, if PvP is ever going to happen, the goal should not be to win the PvP. Like that's a very board game mindset. Like you're playing Carcassonne and you need to beat everybody at the game. But if you're playing a character, the goal is to be the character and pursue what the character would pursue. And so any attempt at victory in PvP is just the character's ends, not yours. And so you can kind of make more narrative choices rather than trying to min-max a victory or board game the whole thing or get emotionally involved.
I'll point out something that Josh did with Ralph, which is something that I like to do with my characters, broadly speaking, is if I want my character to be liked, then I make a character who likes getting along with other people. I play a likable character. And Ralph is a likable guy. He's very charismatic. He's very charming. Sure, he's evil under the surface.
I mean, evil's a strong word.
I will refer to... I kind of mentioned that I've had various instances of players who, going into the campaign, they were like, yes, I'm going to betray the party at some point. In one instance, the player is, going to people at the beginning and kind of being like, are you sure you're really cut out for this hero stuff? Or, just kind of very overtly from the beginning, kind of showing their hand. Whereas the player who I've seen it do it best, I'm going to shout out Evan from Improv Tabletop. He's a phenomenal player.
Yeah, Evan.
He, from the very beginning, he's like, I'm going to get the Iron Hand of Vecna, and I'm going to take over the world. That's my character's goal. And the entire campaign along the way, he played a very likable, charismatic, fun character who even, like, one of the other players, their character developed a crush on his character because he was so fun and likable. And you got to play the long game. When we got to that moment where he did steal the Iron Hand of Vecna and tried to kill the rest of the party, it was very emotional, and we all left that like, Evan, I'm really mad at you, but also that was very, very well played, and it's one of the most enjoyable frustrations that we had during that entire campaign.
Yeah, but the point is, Evan wasn't PvPing the whole campaign. It was one moment. And it usually, PvP happens, at least how I feel, but you see it in popular actual plays like Critical Role. It happens because emotions have been building for whatever reason, and everything is coming to a head, and PvP, or rather violence, is one of the only ways to come to a resolution. But it's so rare. It's so infrequent, and a lot of the times it usually results in the party dissipating at that part or a character leaving. It's never just like a, I'm gonna attack you. All right, we're good buds again. You know, it's always like something drastic is happening. This is a climactic moment, and therefore battle seems like the only option. And so yeah, it's rare. It shouldn't be happening with the same two characters every episode.
And if it is, then the actual players behind the characters probably need to talk IRL.
Yeah.
Let's see, we do got to go fast, but this is a good vein. Any other thoughts on this before we move on?
I have one. So now being a fan of Cast Fireball, listening to your guys' backlog, there was not a ton of inter-party tension at the beginning. Like the three of you got along fairly well. Like there was maybe like a couple little like idiosyncrasies or whatever, like chips on your shoulders, but there wasn't a whole lot of tension. Then you guys all got to know each other. Like the players, the characters all got to know each other and start to uncover different pieces of each other's backgrounds. And like, man, where you guys are right now, like episode 70 plus, it's rife with inter-party tension. It's like all of a sudden you guys like became a thing. You got close enough to hurt each other, to know each other, and now there's this like, I feel like you guys are definitely like, you're dancing in those inter-party tension moments where it's like, yeah, there could be a piece of PvP anywhere. Like it's like it could just. What's interesting to me is, and in your example as well, Ned, it never seems like a surprise. Like it never seems like a surprise to, especially the DM, I should say. Like that's when I feel like it works, is when it's not like a totally out of left field, taking everybody off guard.
I think reading his question, I think PvP also can be insight checks. It can also be trying to steal from people's stuff in the middle of the night. It can be anything where you are rolling against another player. And sometimes that can be really frustrating or really painful or really upsetting, just to like, dude, we're on the same team. Why are you doing something against me?
Yeah, like when I stole the story that Quilliam, whatever his name was. When I stole the story that Quilliam had written down from the story that Lance had told him, because I was going to give it to the library to get back in, I was like, actually, I feel terrible about this. I'm going to give it back. So
I think just having those moments, but also you just need to trust each other. Like it really comes down to the cohesiveness of the table, because all moments that we have had of PvP or these tensions, we have trusted each other to be like, we're not screwing each other in the long run. This is going to somehow help the story. I think of Greenest, where Lance is almost going to leave the party. But it wasn't ever in my mind as the player like, I'm going to leave the party. It was, this is a fun tension moment, and we're going to see how this plays out to better the story. With Fleeple, again, and his kind of cult ferocity when we were in the Caldera, and the tension that brewed there, it really helped solidify every PvP moment. If you treat it right and you have player trust, it creates such a more cohesive and strong unit to play with, because you're not, in the end, actually out to screw each other. You are there to actually build with each other, and tension builds.
And I think sometimes that even comes from knowing that you can and you're not going to. Like there's episodes that are coming up, to give a little, not a spoiler, but a hint at what's coming up. We have some stuff, some awesome RP between our characters, and there are moments where Lance is really great of like, I'm not going to roll insight because she has already said this to me and I've chosen to believe it, or my rules have revealed that I should believe it, so I'm going to follow along that line. But then Malamar's story will change, and then that resets the roll or whatever. So I think as a player, I just kind of, that trust is so important of like, I know I'm lying, you know I'm lying, because like we know what really happened, but I have to like trust that you're doing it because it's going to further the story, not just because you're like trying to get back at me as a character. Like, see, my insight's so great, I just want to smash your deception into the ground or whatever. That sometimes the better choice is to not roll an insight. Sometimes a better choice is to steal and then give it back, or to go up to stealing it and then deciding not to. That sometimes the PvP tension is awesome, and you have to decide, is it worth going through with the rolls, or is it worth pulling back and letting that moment kind of be what it was?
Mel, that is one of Malamar.
Mal.
Mickey, Mickey, that is one of the best takes on PvP I've ever heard. I loved that. That's really good.
Yeah. And when in doubt, make sure the tension's always within the characters, never the players. End of story.
100%. Although I would be scared to meet Jacob in real life a little bit.
We're beard bros. It's fine. We're beard bros. We're gonna go get some pizza and we're gonna just enjoy life.
You're in your closet and there's just a little light on your face, and I just remember the moments where like Lance was getting upset and I'm just seeing like your eyes staring
I'm a good
death into the camera.
I'm a good actor.
That he is.
It's a very good.
Ned, would it be okay?
All
Because
right,
we
Ned.
haven't had a lot of character questions. Could I lightning round a couple character questions for everybody?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to lightning round. So, starting with Mickey. If Malamara had decided to stay in the Bloody Bowl, what type of character would you have made to replace her? This is from Mark Wells, which, by the way, he loved the whole episode of the Bloody Bowl.
I did too.
So good.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to play, at the top of my list is a fighter with a battle master subclass.
Yeah.
Just because I've always really wanted to do the superiority dice and like really like be a battlefield general and have that be the character. I just think that would be so fun. That's like at the top of my
You would
list.
be very good at that. You would be
the tactician.
yes.
It is really fun.
So the support, but the support in a combat situation.
You and I were feeling that, Mickey, with your flashback with your brother. I mean, I've always wanted to try out a Battle Master as well, and sometimes I have to make NPCs be my PC characters.
Ned, how dedicated is Fleeple to stopping the cult? Is it to the point of any cost? Lance? Mal? What is Fleeple willing to sacrifice to stop this?
And that's from the Wandering Bard. Thank you.
Yeah, so Fleeple, there's an episode coming up in which Fleeple does a very, very big thing. Let me preface this by a little bit of Josh's face right now. Oh my gosh.
Like Fleeple is like the purest, sweetest old.
Oh, just wait.
I don't want him to betray anyone. That's gonna break my heart.
Here's the yes, so this is where Ned, as the player, begins to shine a little bit through the tender veneer of Fleeple. So I don't often think of myself as a chaotic player, but in certain moments, I have my moments in certain moments, and a lot of this, I think, comes from what I've experienced with improv tabletop, in the sense of, like, sometimes the story just needs something really, really big to happen to make stuff move. And an example of what we've already seen so far with that is in the Bloody Bowl, when Fleeple is like, this guy annoys me, I'm just going to summon Star Platinum and start a big old fight. And nobody else in the group was expecting that, and after I did that, I saw everybody else's faces kind of drop, and I was like, oh boy, we're in it now.
Katie, that was a moment I was not expecting, just to go back to your question last time. Anyway, continue, Ned.
Yeah, and so, like, you'll occasionally see these moments happen from Fleeple where I, as Ned, am like, we just need to really throw a wrench in the story to make something interesting happen. And in those moments, we go into them, and it's like, we don't know what's going to happen on the other side of this. But, we talk about as well, like, when you get into a PvP-ish situation, you have to have trust in your friends. And by this time, I have pretty implicit trust in everybody involved in this podcast to know that if I do, I feel like I'm trying to justify my bad behavior. But I have enough trust in all of the people around this table that I know if I do make a big swing like that, we're going to be able to figure it out somehow.
Yeah, Mickey and I will just start a text message. We have our text message plots against the DM. We'll just start one, plots against Fleeple.
Against Fleeple.
There we go.
What do we do if he goes supersonic on us? What do we do?
Yes, so we saw that happen in the Bloody Bowl, and within just a few episodes, so at some point in relation to this episode, in very close proximity to this episode, Fleeple is going to make a very big choice that kind of has something to do with this question of what is Fleeple willing to give up or do to stop the cult.
So stay tuned.
Tensions have been mounting in the crew about certain topics, and Fleeple takes action. But just know, going into that situation, Ned didn't know what was going to happen on the other side, but he trusted that his friends were going to be able to figure it out.
And that comes from us playing for years with each other.
Yeah. Well, and it also, just to kind of wrap that up, it also goes along with Ned in any action Ned or any character takes. You also know, like, they're not just going to leave it there. Like, they're not just going to be like, well, figure it out, and if you don't, screw you. Like, no, they will actually find a way, okay, how can I bring the story back? How can I bring and build it back? So, yeah, I agree. It's just the trust of the group. Our next question for speed round, so speedy, is for me, for Jacob. It says, Lance, giving away your scarf was so... This is from Michael Sear. Lance, giving away your scarf was so powerful. What made you feel it was a good idea to hand over such an important character item? So, Lance still has the scarf. He tore off a piece of it, specifically the piece that had already been bloodied from past events. That moment, though, of kind of divulging to Ralph a big character kind of stuff, which the party did... You know, they might find out later, but it was really almost like the idea of this guy. I almost killed him. Like I did. I knocked him unconscious. I literally killed him. Like in terms of, but then we didn't have him roll death saving throws. We whatever it's called. We sustained him. It was kind of like this guy. I have no invested interest in him, so it almost became an easier confide for Lance. To be like, because I'm not invested in this guy, I don't have any worry of how he's going to judge me for these things. So it was almost like a natural way for Lance to unload what he's been carrying for so long, because he is worried about Fleeple and Malamara possibly judging him or possibly considering him different. And especially with the scarf, it's that moment of, okay, if we're really going to go along with Ralph's plan of somehow convincing Vandal that I'm dead, I have to give him something that only I would have, and that's the scarf. Like Lance, I mean, he could hand anything to Vandal that Lance has, and Vandal could say, well, you could have picked this up anywhere. The scarf can't be picked up anywhere. It is attached to Lance, and Vandal would know that. And so that's kind of the reason behind that decision.
Jacob, because I'm curious, do you think that part of the reason that like Lance, almost from like the get-go, was just had kind of like a chip on his shoulder against Ralph before you guys even learned much about him? Do you feel like in some ways he sees like Ralph as what he could have been if he didn't like get out, or like a slimy peon of the bad guys that just was like serving for his own ends and doesn't really have any greater...
Yeah, I think I like that question. I think it's very much where Lance has been around characters like Ralph his whole life, and he knows that that's what his destiny possibly could have been, and he despises that because of what it has done to him.
You could almost like taste it on him when you first...
Yeah,
and it's like
it was like, this guy's hiding something, he's doing something, and... As soon as he's like, oh yeah, Vandal, I know Vandal, Lance had a moment, which he has repeatedly throughout this campaign, which is like, why didn't I see this? Of course this guy works for Vandal. Of course he's part of this underground network. I should have seen this coming. And so it almost pisses him off more. Not necessarily that, because he's met people his entire life who are part of this program and part of this group, but it's more of, why, whenever I give an ounce of trust, does it immediately get thrown back in my face? So yeah,
cool.
That's fun, and it'll progress more in the coming episodes we got. Josh, this question is for you though. Connecting back to what you just talked about, where does the Jank Squad sit with Ralph in terms of loyalty? Hal, at that final meeting where Ralph has been thrown out of windows and stabbed with poison and tied up and stolen from, do you like us? This is from Michael Sear again.
I think Ralph likes you guys a lot. I think he like, if he wants to like just, kick back and hang out with some people, you guys were great. Like, he could piss off Lance and, just really, get plastered with Fleeple, and I think the person he was legitimately most intimidated by the whole time was Mal. Like, it was Mal. I think in terms of like allyship, I think you guys are as much of an ally as any relationship he could possibly use to his advantage is an ally.
Yeah. And how does the Jank Squad feel? Did they consider Ralph an ally?
Not after the first Council of Waterdeep.
Yeah. I mean, that episode's been released by now. Thomas, we still don't know what happened with that mask, and we are very upset.
Ooh.
Wait, what? I haven't listened to that one yet. Does Ralph come back? Does Ralph come back as an NPC?
There's no mask in the box that you gave us.
Josh's face.
That whole arc, nothing was in the box, at least in terms of the mask wise and the cult.
What? But it was there though. It was there though, right? Like it was.
Because that was the instant reaction. It's like it's in there because we did the detect locate object thing, and so the instant reaction was Ralph had to have done something with it.
Yeah.
You know what? It was. So we never opened it the entire time I was with you.
We never opened the box.
I'm sorry, I'm spiraling now. Because I did locate object, right? And the only thing that can block locate object is lead lined, is a pretty thick, lead covered case. And so that means that I detected it and then it disappeared. And I detected it in a direction. We never actually saw the thing open and shut. So but also Rezmir and the red wizard, med mage, what's his name?
Rathmodar.
Dead guy. They both also thought the mask was in there. Mm-hmm. Because they were fighting tooth and nail for it, right? So
you'd think.
What the?
They gave up their lives for it. It had a lot of jewels in it. Had a lot of money in it.
Yeah, we got bank for it, but that is a big moment.
I'm wondering if Thomas secretly let Ralph steal it, but I feel like I would have known. So I'm now so
wants to
confused.
bring you back.
Well, and we even walked through it, and we don't think that's a possibility because again, you never opened it, you never were alone with it.
No, it was for sure there. It was for sure in that room, in that spot of.
But I believe from what happened, this is taking longer than expected. I believe from what happened, you cast to find it, you were led to that room, but then you, through another spell, detected the box being invisible, but you never connected the mask to the box.
Wow. Was there a third person in that room before the fight started? Was it just the two of them in that room when Ralph entered, or was there a... Oh man, Thomas.
Yeah,
all right, I know. This has ruined the rapid pace, but I'm now.
I think every time we've said, all right, let's go quick, we're like, all right, let's take 5 minutes for the next one. Let's go quick. 5 minutes later, all right, let's go quick.
This is an ongoing mystery, but needless to say, right now the Jank Squad is upset with Ralph because they think that he messed up with the mask somehow.
That's fair. I'll say to the last Ralph question. Is what would it take for Ralph to leave the employ of Vandal? Money, power, friendship, power. That's it. There's no other.
Oh.
Either he gets powerful enough to usurp Vandal, or Vandal dies and he's not under Vandal's power. That's the.
Yeah. The only way to get out from under Vandal is to get out on top.
There you go.
Yeah. And I think Lance, this connects back to again our discussion of. This could be you. What Ralph is could be Lance, and Lance being he's so pissed at Ralph because he identifies so much with him. Ralph, the Jank Squad is a resource to Ralph, and to Lance, Ralph is a resource, not an ally, a resource.
Love it.
All right, Ned.
Yeah, how about we just end on a really lighthearted, what's everybody's favorite cowboy phrase?
Oh my gosh, not this one. Thank you, Matt G, for this question.
Is a roundhouse something? Wasn't there a
haymaker on a Wednesday?
Haymaker on a Wednesday.
Now, what's so great about that one is Jacob came up with that during our warm-up before the episode started and then called back to it. So it wasn't actually an official quote-unquote Lance cowboy phrase. It was kind of an inside joke that managed to make it out to the public.
Oh yeah, we do improv warm-up games. Yeah.
Yes. I will say a sad note on that. The website I go to for cowboy phrases has been taken down. So I don't have the same list anymore. Yeah, I literally looked it up when this question popped up, and it's gone. I can't find that website anymore. So.
Tragic.
Goodbye, cowboy phrases. There's a lot of other websites out there.
Well, that is pretty much about does it. I think we didn't get to one question. Sorry, Katie. We'll have to ask it maybe in a future episode, see if it comes up again. But that's pretty much it. That's how we're going to end this week's episode of I Cast Fireball. All right. Well, Josh, as always, thank you so much for joining us. It is always a pleasure. It's so much fun to have you on. We'll see. I mean, if Ralph really did steal this item, or if something else happened to it, and.
Amazing. What an incredible reveal. That is now my most surprised moment.
That you found out live while recording. So how things are going to unfold for the Jank Squad, and what new questions you may have for a future mailbag or a Word of Recall episode. Don't forget to feel free to shoot them over to us as quick as you want. We'll keep a running list, and any of them that don't get answered by an episode, we'll slap on here. So don't feel like you have to wait until we ask for those questions. Just shoot them on over, whether through an Instagram, through our social medias at icastfireball20, or email icastfireball2020@gmail.com. Feel free to send them on over to us, as well as what you've got going on in your own campaigns, in your own adventures as well. What things have you liked Ralph doing? Would you like to see Ralph back? I would like to see Ralph come back, but we'll see if
you just find a dead body and a talking sword. That's like the.
Oh.
Josh is now playing as Jeremy, the talking sword.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
We just
boy.
equip him and then he.
Oh my gosh! Oh well.
I'll give up my Githyanki sword and take Jeremy.
Take Jeremy. Oh man! So we'll have to see if we can see more of Ralph, but more importantly, more of Jeremy in the future. So stay tuned for future episodes of iCast Fireball. Josh, thank you so much. Round of applause to you as always. But in addition to Josh, Ned, Jacob, Mickey, thank you of course always for joining us today. And Ned, especially on your birthday, happy birthday! Yes.
Oh, thank you.
If you'd like to hear more of Ned on his birthday, or really any other day, maybe his unbirthday as well, go look at Improv Tabletop, where they have an amazing campaign going on using the Blades in the Dark tabletop system. It's fun, it's wacky, it's intense, it's got Avatar lore in it. It's just a good time. Go give them a 5-star review, and don't forget to check out their fake campaigns that they have in their backlog, a whole year's worth. That's our sister podcast that we're shouting out there. And shouting out as well Joshua's podcast. He's got the Titans of Altera season 3. He's got episodes still coming out.
They are coming out. They are. I don't care what anybody says. They are coming out. But if you are not caught up, or you want to get just refresh yourself, they've got season 1 and season 2 out, as well as Sneak Attack, an entire season 1 and season 2 adventure that they've got going on there, which got us all into everything. So don't forget to shout him out and leave them a review as well, and to just go check them out as well. Lastly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends and fellow wacky adventurers. But until next time, I'm Thomas, your DM, and around the table we have...
I'm Mickey and I play Malamara.
I'm Jacob, and I play Lance Thalen.
I'm Ned, and I play Fleeple.
I'm Josh, and I played Ralph.
Let's keep that fire going, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.